Hey everybody, John Peters again from the Main Street Business Alliance, and today we're talking about strategic partnerships on The Main Thing. I am joined by my dear friends and great partners, Paige Soltano and Nancy Matthews-Wemmer from Fairleigh Dickinson University, and we've been partnering together. I think we're probably one of the first partnerships that I did here at the Main Street Business Alliance. So before we go off on a tangent, today is all about how do small businesses benefit from partnerships, and because I don't think a lot of people think about how might I partner with the university. It seems too big. It doesn't seem so small business enough. But we've actually pulled off a couple of really neat things, and that's what I want to talk about today. So first off, Nancy, tell everybody what you do at the university.
Sure, and first off, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting us, John. And I pretty much head up marketing and branding for Fairleigh Dickinson University. So end-to-end recruitment, brand awareness, soup to nuts marketing for the university.
Great. And Paige?
I'm the Director of Placement and Outreach for Silberman College of Business. I work closely with our business students, undergrads and grads, to help them get internships, jobs after they graduate, and all their professional development in between.
And we've worked on all those together.
And we have.
Okay,
Yes.
Cool. So let's start with, and I know people will come out and say, well, wait a minute, let's talk about mission statements and vision statements and all this kind of stuff, right? And that tends to get people just to read a script. And for me, that's not what I'm looking for. Tell me, in general, how you feel the university best does things, no matter what it does, with the local community.
I think a lot of it, and it is related to our mission, a lot of what we focus on is preparing students to lead and find careers within the global marketplace. That's part of our mission statement. But I think we get tripped up on the word global, and global really does exist right outside of our campus border. You know, it's right next door to us. We're in global. So a lot of what we try to do is foster that, and I think we lost a bit of that pre-pandemic, where marketing and brand became about, the big scale marketing.
Right.
When a lot of the most successful marketing happens when you engage with the local community and build those relationships. So I think that is really one of our aims with the Main Street Business Alliance, is to grow that and develop the brand from that.
So I knew straight away that a partnership with you guys, first of all, full disclaimer, I graduated from the university back in 1914, I think it was. So I'll throw that out there. But for me, it was like, oh, it's FDU. So it was beyond it was me. It was FDU. You can't talk about Hackensack. Just like any other Main Street anywhere across the USA, you say university, and I don't know, 9 out of 10 people, the first thing they'll say is the most reputable local university, right? So for me, I knew that would be a really great partnership. But when we came knocking on your door, how did you feel about how that might enhance the visibility or even the brand of Fairleigh?
Yeah, I thought it was great, because what we're looking for, certainly, it's almost like, and you mentioned it in your intro to the podcast here, people view the university as this kind of almost walled off entity wherever they are, and it's really not like that. When students and families come to the university, they're not just coming to the campus, they're coming also to the broader community, right? So when you approached me, immediately I thought, wow, this is not only a great opportunity for us as a university, but it's mutually beneficial. Sure. And I don't think we knew how mutually beneficial it was until the three of us really started talking and coming up with, wow, yeah, we could do that, or we could try this. I will say at the start, one of the things that I think really I thought about was there is an immense growth going on right now in Hackensack. So to see Main Street being rejuvenated and so much going on, and a lot of it thanks to you with just trying to get everything going and awareness for it, I saw it as an opportunity for new customers.
Sure.
For us. And higher ed doesn't really use that word customer too much, but certainly prospective students as well. That was one of the big drivers for me initially, but it's grown into so much more.
Yeah. So, Paige, I'm going to pass this to you, but I'm going to pass the baton for a second.
Okay.
Because I am, my entire life I've spent time in meetings talking about 30,000 foot ideas. And then it takes that special person to be able to, guide the plane down to 15,000 feet and then help you actually land somewhere and implement something. And for me, you've been instrumental in that,
Thank you.
right? So let's talk about how you see the relationship with small business Hackensack, right? And again, it's the same thing if any university people were sitting there for Small Business USA with their local small businesses. But how do you see, when we came and we started talking, and where did your mind go? Like, you just started rifling off, like, okay, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this. And then further, you were like, you need to speak to Janet, you need to speak to Fred, here's his phone number, here's his cell phone number, he's coming over tomorrow, 4 o'clock. So how did that even, when you look at this, what's your lens?
An unfocused marketing person? I don't know. No, a professional matchmaker.
Okay.
Like, I truly
Yeah.
fancy myself a professional matchmaker. And whether it's finding appropriate talent for an intern or a full-time person, or an idea, or somehow to continue networking, professional matchmaking.
Well, what amazed me at the beginning is I said, oh, I need an intern. And you're like, well, of course you do. But what type of intern? I mean, you asked me about 30 questions, and then you said,
asked a lot
I
of
need to see it in writing. Put together. It doesn't have to be perfect. You said,
Guilty.
but I need to see something in writing. I'm like, I just want some interns. Like, but you're like, no, you don't understand. And then I gave it to you, and you came back and said, oh, here's what you do. You need to speak to Gabby for this portion about it. You need to speak to Fernando for this portion about it. So it was really helpful, and I wonder if most people coming in to the university, or any universities, right? I don't know that it works that way. I mean, you really helped me through that process to the point where our intern Gabby, as of a couple, last week or so, is now full time with us. And that
Yay,
was,
Gabby.
Yeah. So, is that something that's just you? Is that something that you have found after doing it 50 million times that you really know how it works?
I'll take credit that it's me,
Okay.
but the reality is my background's human resources.
Okay.
So I've done a lot of talent acquisition. So I'm very comfortable asking appropriate questions and pulling out of the hiring manager what it is they really need, why.
Mm-hmm.
And then the part of writing it down is really cementing it. And then I'm visual, and it's easier to send to a student to say, please review this job description. This might be appropriate. Here's why I think you'd be good for it. Let me know what questions you have, and start the conversation.
So the part that got me was how many students are there?
A lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it wasn't like it was you were some HR manager someplace at some company.
Right.
We're talking about, and you knew straight away. It was very impressive from that.
So
from last time.
within Silverman College of Business, because I work with a lot of our students, I know them very intimately, appropriately intimately. But I know what they want. I think over time, their strengths, their weaknesses, areas that they need to improve upon, and the opportunities that would work best for them.
So do you think, is there a lesson for small businesses on Main Street in Hackensack, or any Main Street, frankly, there?
Yes.
What's the lesson? I mean, so I'm a small business somewhere, and I'm pretty sure I need an intern. I would love an intern. We'll talk in a second about the whole free versus paid and how that world has changed. But give small businesses some advice.
It's additional talent. It's an opportunity to bring in younger people who are either incredibly social media savvy that maybe you're not. They understand the digital assets that are out there and how best to use all of those tools. It's an opportunity to understand a different market. What they want, depending upon the business, might be very different than a few years ago. And it's an opportunity to learn both ways. Like
Right.
maybe mentor a student. Maybe you are an entrepreneur and you have a student who has a side hustle and that's what you want. I'll help you with your side hustle if you help me with your business. It's mutually beneficial, and I have a lot of undergraduates and graduate students that are looking for those opportunities.
Yeah. So and that's somebody said, "Hey, I'm really glad." One of the interns, Ruman from Pakistan of all places, right? And he said, "I'm like, this is great. I'm really looking forward." He goes, "No, I really look forward to working with you." And he goes, "This project is great." He goes, "But I really want to pick your brain on some of your back." He had done all the research on my background and all that, so it was a great experience. But Nancy, how do you articulate that? How do you articulate the benefits of this to the student community?
Well, I think it's in a few ways, and obviously the biggest one is what students get out of it in terms of career preparation.
For sure.
Okay.
Obviously, one of the biggest things in selling a university to any student is that they're going to leave that university on solid footing to get their first job out of the university or when they graduate, and obviously start a career. They can do it without experiential learning, but they do it at it's a deficit to them. So any time that we are able to provide such experiences that are really immersive, the student benefits,
Sure.
and it's what their future employers want to see on their resume upon graduation. So, and I think one of the things I love about the Main Street opportunity is that I'm not knocking the big, company,
Sure.
corporation internships, not at all. But being in a small business environment, you really learn the nuts and bolts. There is no huge finance department or advertising department, so I think the students actually get quite a bit more out of that environment. And what we do from a marketing perspective then is share those experiences and how starting at point A for a student, going through experiential learning opportunities, ultimately then landed that job upon graduation or before graduation even, because that's really the ROI of what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
I would add one thing.
Sure.
For a smaller organization, there's no place for a student to hide. And so you are front and center. And so if you're a slacker, everybody knows it. If you're a doer and take initiative, everybody knows it. And I think that's really important. And in a smaller organization, in a smaller business, it gives a student an opportunity to truly communicate, not be on their phone, but have to have face-to-face conversation. And it's probably a safer space for a lot of students that might be more introverted, not comfortable with their communication skills, not really sure how to initiate a conversation. And it's an easy way to start to then blossom and go on to do more.
Yeah, well, and it's funny that you use the word blossom, because I was away on vacation and Gabby had to cover an event for me. And she's like, okay, she just assumed she was going to go hand out some brochures. I'm like, no, you have to speak. She's like, to whom? I'm like, to everybody. And she's like, I could see her sweating. And I'm like, it's okay. It's really okay. You're going to do great. We walked through it, practiced once or twice, and she pulled it off.
Yep.
And she's comfortable now. And she did another one. And she goes, she goes, and we filmed this one, and it came out great. My boyfriend came and he filmed it for her. So there was such pride there, and I saw it. And she did really well, and it was a moment of pride for me. I've mentored 100 students, and I don't just throw that service out there. I like to mentor the people that come and ask to be mentored, because that right away means that you have some interest. And then especially the ones that keep asking questions and really take what they're learning. And I've promised you the first day, and you said that was an important part of what we were doing. This is not busy work.
Right.
This is not going to be, hey, come make copies, come get coffee. This is none of that. Now, the first thing I also told Gabby in this instance was, hey, it's Mondays. We clean the bathroom.
Right.
Because if we don't do it, it doesn't get done. And I recall one of the lectures I gave at one of the classes, one of the students was like, Okay, you've told us about your successes, and that's great. What was one of your biggest failures? And I'm like,
Great
wow, these
question.
guys really. I'm like, that's an awesome question. So when it comes to small business, I'm like, I know the pain of having to make payroll on Friday, right? You don't get that. There's something that you get with working with small businesses, and life has just changed. But speaking about life and changing and things like that, how have you had to adapt what you do from a marketing standpoint, a branding standpoint? I mean, marketing, the universities across the country are facing all sorts of challenges these days. From what I hear, kids don't think that they need full degrees. They have to, everybody follows like these two Instagrammers that are making $6 billion, and they all of a sudden want to throw their future to the wind because they opened up an account. How has your life changed professionally, and how you market what it is that you all offer?
I think, number one, I was in a conversation on this very topic. One of our vendors asked us, how are you being successful in this environment? And my answer was pretty simple. And it ties back to Paige and the students and all. And I said, it's because we got back to marketing fundamentals. And there's a lot of hype on a lot of things out there right now for marketing. And at the end of the day, though, those business fundamentals are what we come back to. Higher ed is definitely in a unique place right now. I think a lot of it was higher ed institutions got in the habit of it almost doing marketing by rote. It was, we're here, we're great, you should love us, and that's not the market we're in right now. Maybe the elites are, but many other private, especially private institutions are not. And I think it comes down to really understanding what you can offer, number one, strategically, certainly, but it goes back to a lot of what our president, Mike Avaltroni, right now, he is very much focused on, and it's students first. Pure, simple, 2 words, students first. You can't get much more focused and targeted and have everybody aligned to that than having such a simple a simple focus.
Right.
From a marketing perspective, I look at that as customers first. And that's something I don't think a lot of higher ed institutions and just higher ed marketing in general has always had as their focal point. When you start getting to a point where you can understand the customer, what they really need, whether it is a short-term credential, whether it's entrepreneurial, whether it's a full-blown out MBA, or whatever the program is, to be able to flex and offer what the customer is looking for, that is how I think we're starting to put, or have been putting, more students first and shifting our marketing focus in alignment with that strategy. Not gonna lie, it is a rocky time.
Sure.
But I've found, and like Paige, I come from the private sector. I didn't grow up in higher ed. So I find when you're going through periods of intense either disruption, transformation, any of that, it's always been key for me to get back to fundamentals, because that's where it starts. So,
Well, I'll use that as a lead-in for a shameless plug about fundamentals, because this didn't start out. I've been writing this other book on strategic partnerships for about, I don't know, 3 years or whatever. The publisher's a little fed up with me there. But when I got here, I realized, and I'm all about customer journey, whether it was an online customer, a yacht cruise customer, a tourism customer. It's about their experience and their journey. And walking up and down Main Street, there were some things that were very visible from a customer journey that needed to shift somewhat. And I mention that because when I did that project that you helped me get connected with at the university, where it was almost the Keystone Project, where we have that students and they worked on a big project for us.
Yep.
And I walked for the first time with students up and down Main Street. And I'm like, okay, I need you to keep your student lens on. Of course, that was the only lens they were wearing at the time. But for me, I needed to shift, and it was a whole different walk. And that's why I think that's one of the greatest benefits that I've gotten out of working with the students at the university was we walked into one place, they're like, And I was excited to show them this place. They're like, yeah. And then we stopped at another place on the way because we were thirsty, and they were like, this place is awesome. And it wouldn't have been, honestly, in fairness, it wouldn't have been a place that I would have checked the box on the awesome part. But when you start looking things through a whole different lens, and that's why I ask about how things are changing. Are you finding that is today's student lens that much different than it was, or what are some of the biggest changes that you see from a student standpoint that someone from small business might go, you know what, I didn't think about that. Like, what is it that the changes that you're seeing in today's students that other people who are entrepreneurial, have a business, small business, whatever, should understand?
Generalization.
Yes.
Right?
Fair enough.
I think they are very consumer savvy because they don't necessarily have unlimited funds, and so they're very particular about where they're going to spend their hard-earned dollars because a lot of them are working their way through school. So they're very particular. Is it truly a good value? How do I relate to this? Do I believe in this? What's it going to do for me? Right. And then even a step further, like, what's the communication? Are you yelling at me? Is it like neon lights, or are you really inviting me in to do fill in the blank? So it's funny that you use the word inviting, because that's the one word that I heard over and over and over again. From the students? From the students. I was like, oh, this place is it's inviting. That's interesting. Like, even before we walked in, like, this feels comfortable. This feels, they were looking, are there couches or are there just tables? Do the tables make them feel like they have to order something? I mean, there's a couple places on Main Street that have really just knocked it out of the park with offering people selections of things, and who automatically, some just do better with students than others do. And that was a real eye-opener for me. Apparently, I've gotten older over the years, and I don't know. I forgot to check that off when it comes to considering everything. I had a couple different lenses. I never really. My fault. I didn't keep up enough with the student lens, and the project really helped me with that. Well, and I don't think, though, it's just the student lens. I think it's the customer in general. And what I find too is some things that I think a lot of companies, whether it's small business or not, don't realize is that having that customer-centric lens, and whether it's a bit of personalization, customization, whatever, it's table stakes now. It's not, and especially the student population, they know it, they expect it, something that ties closely to that. I really enjoyed the podcast you did with Roberto. I was listening to that, and he's from SunMed. SunMed, yeah, okay. Right. And some of what he was saying would seem almost heretical to to some people. He was talking about the location, looking for a location where he could have events, not just be a storefront selling stuff. He also mentioned getting to know his colleagues up and down Main Street, and he mentioned things like sampling. And a lot of businesses don't get, particularly small businesses, sometimes you have to give before they get. Sure. So, and I think the student population that resonates with. So granted, there's a cost to that, but that's where students' expectations are these days. So I think that's key for small businesses to consider. Yeah, and I always use Roberto as a really good example of all the things that have to get done even before you open. He and his fiance walked Main Street. Frankly, I would see them everywhere for months, even before they opened, just introducing themselves to the other businesses in the area. Now, was everybody 100%
responsive to that? No. I mean, I have always said I need a badge that says I'm not a tax collector, right? When I walk into some place. But they did it, and they look at it, and to the point about it's not just about the storefront. He made sure he found a place with a really cool area in the back where people can sit and hold events and all, and he does a bunch of things there.
But
So-
one comment
yeah.
on that, though. So talking about using a student lens, I think that's the benefit of a small business hiring an intern, because they get the benefit of that regular dialogue, and maybe it's not necessarily with regards to digital social media, but you have a built-in focus group, if you will, where people, a student, and our students, returning students and vets, and, from 18 years old all the way up, who can give you some feedback because they're there and they want to help,
Yeah.
right? And there's a reason. So again, goes back to that mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah. Well, like I said, on the capstone project, talk about feedback. I mean, they didn't stop. It was really great. And then the end report that they gave me, like, this is really neat. It was nice. It was concise, and it was from a different lens. I promise you, when I hand it to my board in 3 weeks, it's going to be really, really valuable to them. It was. I mean, how many students does FDU have these days? Where are we?
About 3,000 a class.
Yeah. So there's
12, let's say 10, 12,000.
okay. So 10, 12. That's 10, 12,000.
Yeah.
Mile and a half from here, potential new customers. So you either get with the program and offer the things that they like to be offered in a way that they like to read about it and learn about it, or don't. It's really that simple. And everybody's like, oh, we got to give a discount. I'm like, don't start with the discounts. Yes, they're important. There's a couple things that are really important for students, but is it on a product that they actually want or need? Or, I mean, and it's just that whole conversation of here's how we speak to different people in different ways. And Iconic Coffee is a great. It was one of the places that the kids walked in and they were like, this place is awesome, because he's got the great vibe. They use the word vibe on a regular basis. Everybody was friendly. He trains the heck out of his staff. You walk in there and from a distance he's like, hey Fred, you usual. I mean, it's and you, even if you're your first time in, that kind of thing makes you feel like, okay, this is a comfortable place.
But the key word is trains the staff, right?
Right.
So students, we have a wealth of talent, and I don't know that people need to be trained per se, but they need to be given feedback, right? So for any small business that ever takes on an intern or a full-time employee, everybody wants feedback. So how do you give them feedback so they can improve and be that much better? And ideally, mutual feedback. And so I think the training overall is amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe think about doing a whole training on Main Street. I don't know.
We could. There's another one of those ideas.
There you go.
I think so, and it's interesting for every student, and including this past few that from Fairleigh that have come to me and said, "Hey, would you mentor me?" I'm like, "Well, on one condition, you mentor me as well."
That's key.
I'm not too old to learn, and it's been really helpful. Like I'll put something down and go, "Okay, here's," and they'll go, they look at it and then they wait for that moment of vulnerability that they go, what I would do? I would make this red. I really would. We like red, and they use terms like we and things like that, and it's been really helpful. Conversely, I promise them, I say, hey, you're going to leave with real skills that you can put. I'll help you with LinkedIn, and you're going to walk away with a project that will allow you to put at least 4 or 5 bullets on there that you can explain to anybody, that you will have actually done it and been in control of it. You didn't just do that. So we've published some papers, and I put some of the kids' names on the papers. Just, they've been very, very appreciative of all that, and it's helped me learn to be a better mentor from them. I've seen that, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't just have mentees. I have friends now.
That's great.
It's been really
Yeah.
great
Great.
relationships. What's something I should be asking you that I'm not?
Ooh.
Either one of you. From the small business standpoint, or small business in Hackensack, really, because I think, like I said, I think it's the same across the country. But is there something that, as a community, the small business community should be doing better, should be, and it doesn't even have to be doing better. It could be, or, is there some idea? Is there something that you look at and go, there's a potential opportunity or something? And this is not a question I ever like to send out ahead of time, because then there's too much thought that goes into it. So when you look at small businesses, you're going up and down, Main Street, and you know what you have to offer. Is there something that maybe Main Street is missing? Is there anything that we're doing that we should do more of? Is there anything that you see that where we scratch the surface and you go, you know what, that's great, but this is going to get a lot deeper?
So I think this will answer your question in a roundabout way. I know that there's a shortage of talent, and yes, we want our students to have internship experiences. And so are retail opportunities important? 100%. Are retail opportunities the start of converting to something different? Potentially. But I think if the small businesses would reach out to FDU on a more regular basis about, who can I talk to about? And it's probably very different based on their needs. There's somebody at the university who can engage and help with that. We may not be the right people, but at least within the university can point you in the right direction, or at least brainstorm together, as we have on a regular basis, to find out who that may be. And I would really encourage, if appropriate, for small businesses to really reach out.
I've told all of and I'm in the process of doing more of it, because people have seen how successful we are with those interns. I said, come to me.
Yeah,
tell me what
come
it
to
is,
me.
and I'll connect you right away with people. Right. So let's filter it, because what I want to do with them is ask them the questions I know that you're going to ask me, that you've asked me. So I might as well ask them ahead of time. Say, hey, you need to start thinking about this and that. Maybe let's sit down. Because that's my job, is to help the small businesses get it down on a piece of paper. But I'm telling them, there's plenty of. I hear it all day. I need help. I need help. I need help. But I do want to touch on one thing, especially when it comes to interns, because we all come from past lives where interns are free. It was free labor and all that, and there was a dramatic shift.
Yeah.
I'll use the term dramatic. I mean, it really was a dramatic shift where this is not just ridiculous free labor. You can't look at it that way. It really is a two-way street. But tell me how that's changed. Frankly, what you both do.
Okay, so ideally, our interns are well paid. I mean, minimum wage in New Jersey's gone up to a little bit more than $15 an hour. So ideally, minimum wage. For students who get credit for an internship, the reality is they're still paying. So now they're paying out of pocket to have this experience. How can you be creative? So if a business really can't afford to pay a student the minimum wage, I would ask them to truly consider a stipend or something else where in fact they get some kind of true benefit in a monetary fashion. Maybe it's a gas card, maybe it's whatever it may
lunch
be.
Every day.
Or lunch every day, right.
Sure.
Or dinner for that matter. So that's one less expense they need to incur to have the benefit of this experience.
Right.
But ideally paid, because our students are paying to go to school.
And not only, and in our case, they show up. They have to pay to park on the street.
Well, that's another story.
You can't just assume, hey, because you're there, people are happy to come in and work for free. That's just not the case.
No, it's not.
They're really looking for the whole experience.
Right.
So how has that shift impacted what you do?
Well, that shift, a lot of it started in what I do. And this goes back, it predates my time in higher ed for sure, but a lot of where that started was in a lot of the fashion magazine interns that were completely overworked. I'll go as far as to say abused and for nothing, and with no guarantee of a job afterward. And yeah, there were lawsuits. And so I think that was a moment in time when the industry just woke up and really took notice, because I think a lot of people purely did not understand and realize that was going on. So now I know even any interns that we have in the marketing department at the university, they're paid. And at least minimum wage, and with an opportunity to grow a little bit. But I think the other aspect of this is that as businesses are looking for intern help, the competition is out there.
Yeah.
So if if you're not kind of in that entry level, at least, of yes, we're going to offer an hourly wage or something, students going to go elsewhere.
So it's funny that you say that, because when someone asked me about the shift, and they're like, "Can you explain the shift?" I go, "Well, I went from interviewing potential interns to being interviewed by potential interns."
Right.
Yep. That was the big.
Right.
It was like, well, can you tell me more about the job? Can you tell me more about the office? Can I come see the office?
Yeah.
Right. It was a whole. It was talk about turning it on its head, and it made me realize. And this is going back a few years, but not that many, that, you know what, okay, there's the old adage, you get what you pay for, but you get what you pay for. And someone who's all in because they like the environment, they like the people, they're really looking forward to it, it's a much better, to your earlier point, mutually beneficial experience for everybody.
You would know better than I, but if there's a lot of small businesses on Main Street and they're not sure what they need, maybe it's a couple of businesses getting together to share an intern or two, right? So if they really need additional help, maybe there's a way to share an intern or two and say, if it's 12 hours a week or 10 hours a week, I get these 5 hours, you get these 5 hours, but together, what do we need together? So use Iconic Coffee, right? So do they actually need somebody, and who's next door to them that might need somebody, and how can that one student help them both push out whatever that may be? See, the wheels are turning, I can see.
Yeah.
And so I would suggest that, like, to your folks, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a one-off, right? It could be something more.
So it could be a marketing student, because this is where I'm going,
Yeah.
because I know people have said, I'm running my restaurant. I don't have time to do these videos and do it right and learn about it and then get zero results. I'm because the people that are running the restaurants, I came in and I said, "Oh, you weren't here this, half an hour ago." She's like, "I was doing delivery. My other delivery guy is over here."
Right.
And they're running their businesses. But what I love about what you just said, and you're right, you saw my wheels spinning, is maybe it's a social media intern for 3 or 4 businesses that are all right next to each other, and you share it. I don't know, 4 or 5 hours each. That's a really great idea.
Mic drop. What?
You're hired.
And to piggyback on that, though, the one thing too I wanted to mention is, because we tend to focus when we think about having a student intern. For a small business, I think a lot of people first jump to marketing, social media. But the reality is, if there were a way to identify as a collective for businesses, what do you need? Do you need strategic help? Do you need finance help? Is it accounts payable, receivable?
Sure.
Is it marketing? And even within marketing, right now, marketing compared to 20, 30, whatever years ago, it's exploded in specializations.
Yes.
So it's not the video person, is not the social media person, is not the paid media. It's yes, you can have one person do it, but knowing what you need within a discipline also helps. And I don't know that small business owners realize what a university like FDU has in terms of the scope and breadth of possibilities for help. And the beauty of it is, these are students that are not only being taught the fundamentals, which are critical, and best practices, they're also learning what's now, what is the latest, most up to date. So a business really can benefit soup to nuts on every aspect of running that business.
Sure.
It just needs to be, okay, let's identify what we need, and they may not at times even know what they need.
No, that's what I loved about Paige's comment
Yeah.
about collectively, what do we think we need?
Right,
Let's talk
right.
about and to me, I was immediately envisioning just a lunch conversation with 5 business owners. Like, okay, what are your top 3 challenges?
Right.
What do you think they are? And then really, when you start drilling down below those challenges, that's where you find the stuff that you're talking about, right? That's where you say, well, okay, you need content. You need long-form content. You need short-form content. You need someone who knows how to write a blog post that's well-written from a particular point of view. Yeah, it does.
Right.
It gets,
So from a marketing perspective, then, and obviously I represent the business college, but there's the whole communications and graphic art students, and then we offer operations. So depending upon what a need is, we can probably fill it appropriately, right?
Yeah.
But to have that conversation, so when you sit down with the small businesses and ask them, feel free to invite us, because from a student perspective, like, what does that look like? What do you think? And then ask the 30 questions that I asked you, and maybe I can get it down to 23. But to ask those very specific questions, to draw out and then see. So what's interesting is our business admin majors they do take accounting like everybody else, and finance and marketing. So they do a little bit of everything. And these are students that are really great for operations or administrative, and I don't mean administrative like copying and filing, but like running an office, any of us, right? And that's such great experience, because you have to be able to pivot, you have to be flexible, you have to be able to listen and respond appropriately, and that's great.
Yeah, I think every once in a while, I ask Gabby what she's having the most fun with, and she's really taken to events. She's like, I had no idea how much work an event is. I mean, there's dealing with the people, ordering stuff, reordering it, reminding them that you're ordering it, going back, getting the people, just because it's not a build it and they will come. We got to get the people there. And she's done a fantastic job at that. But she has clearly learned that there was one event that we hold on a monthly basis, and one of them we sort of fell a little short on something. And guess what? There were fewer people there, and it was a very visible cause and effect. Like, okay, it was a pretty real life lesson for her, and it was nice to be able to see it, because it meant something to her. So now when she's working on the next one, she's like, well, let's push that up a week. We got to do a little bit more of that, right? And that, to your earlier point, is the real skills that come that are going to be useful, whatever her next life is.
And even one of the things too, just basic negotiating when contract negotiations are going on, or you need swag and you're trying to. Those are conversations that in the classroom you don't get. But put a student in an internship, and then the light bulb goes off. Oh, this is how this kind of conversation goes.
Right.
And no, it's invaluable. Absolutely.
Yeah, she said that to me not long ago. She said we were in a meeting, and I was talking about pricing with somebody, and I had mentioned another vendor, and we left, and she's like, who's XYZ? I go, oh, there's no XYZ. Right. So the next time around, I said the same type of thing, and she looked at me like, okay, I got it. I see how that works, right? It was neat. It was neat to be able to teach someone who's so interested in learning, and that's what I've enjoyed so much about every one of the students that have come across my path at FDU. They've wanted to be there. It's really easy to get stuck into something because you have to. Right. But they've done and that's just a real testament of the quality of student over at FDU.
They're authentic. We are very fortunate. We have wonderful, wonderful students that are appreciative, authentic, and interested in learning. And interested in learning, I think for each, their path is a little different, but they're hungry.
Well, I've told everybody about the etiquette class that you created.
Well, I didn't create it, but we definitely put it on, yes.
You said, hey, come for lunch. And I'm like, okay, well, Paige taking me to lunch. And turns out there's other people there. And
50 of my closest friends, right, and students.
But it was fascinating. And I've signed my kids up for, I can't tell you how many etiquette classes, right? And it was amazingly important. And then to watch the students really get a lot out of that. I heard on a number of occasions, like, gee, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know this fork is over here, under, and it was.
So our employer said the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody needs a good reminder.
Everybody needs a good reminder. Yeah. So that was really great. Okay.
Well, and
Tell me.
From a marketing perspective, what a lot of folks don't, on the surface understand, that's our brand. Those students, and wherever they are, not just in on campus, but in internships, in a lot of ways, they're the product, the end product. And wherever they go, that's our brand.
Yeah.
So it's everything that Paige does and her colleagues and Silberman and all, that's creating our brand. So that's an important aspect of this.
Yeah, I've got a whole chapter in here on branding, and because people go, "Oh, it's a logo," and I'm like, "No, that's a logo."
No.
And if you're a restaurant, your brand is what's my first impression as soon as I walk in that door. And what's my first impression when I walk to the bathroom? Is it clean? Is the furniture clean? Is it spotless in there? I mean,
even before you get to that,
Yeah.
it's the reviews they're seeing online. It's the the word of mouth. It's all of it.
yeah, it's the entire experience all wrapped up into. I think I'm looking for someplace. I think I found someplace. I went someplace, and here's how I feel after that. That whole thing is the brand.
Yeah.
And you're right, though. A lot of people tend to forget that. Some of them, like we just said, the Ricardos and the Iconics, and those guys are right on. I've got somebody else that said, "Oh, I need help." They're a restaurant. I need help. So I go and walk in and said, "Okay, I was prepared to talk about some of the marketing aspects and things like that." And I walk in, I go, "It's a little dirty, like not filthy, but hey, there's that piece of, I don't know what it is. Is it furniture by the door? It doesn't look like it's being used for anything. Like, what is that?" And they've been staring at that thing for 15 years, however much it is. Like, if it's not serving a purpose, let's declutter, right? Even before you start doing all those other things. And that's what I loved about walking Main Street with the students, because they're very happy to pick that stuff out and let somebody know about it. But they had a blast when I gave them time alone with the business owners to ask whatever questions they had. And they're like, "Did you ever think about?" And I saw the business owners like just thinking, "Okay, I got to talk to these guys because I told John I'd spend 15 minutes too." Yeah, so really leaning in, and it was a really eye-opening experience for everybody.
Great, let's do it again.
Yeah.
When are we going to do it again?
Well, listen, I mean, I already have the next 5 ideas we have for every time.
Okay.
Every time,
All right.
every time the three of us sit down, we end
Yeah.
up coming up with that. It's been great. So, I would be remiss if I didn't officially thank you guys for an awesome partnership, because it went from one person to 2 people to, I don't know, I think I'm dealing with 15, 20 people at the university, just at all different levels, from the highest level and on down. And it's been a pleasure. So thank you on behalf of Main Street and small businesses across the country for being what I like to call a poster child strategic partnership with how small businesses can work with larger universities. And again, it doesn't, some educational thing of any size. So it's been a pleasure. So before we go, is there anything that you wanted to tell me that you didn't get a chance to, or anything? Is there anything I missed? I feel like we covered pretty much everything, but
I think we did a good job.
Yeah.
I think we have more work ahead now.
we do.
Yeah, we do. We do.
More work. Okay.
More work.
Well, everyone, you heard it here first. Small businesses across the country can very easily work with universities, colleges, and educational institutions of all sizes. You should make sure that you think about what you need interns for and how you want to go about doing that. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer it. And thanks again for joining us on The Main Thing.